Let's talk about the truth of what happened in Benghazi, Libya on September 11th. Islamists there murdered 4 Americans, including the U.S. ambassador to Libya, Christopher Stevens. The Obama administration and its allies in the media have spent the last 10 days intentionally covering up the truth about what happened and why it happened. We were told that the violence was caused by an obscure internet film trailer that's critical of Islam. This lie actually became a talking point within the administration, repeated by everyone from the White House press secretary to the president himself. Other administration officials tried to claim that the attacks were spontaneous and not pre-planned or premeditated, certainly not an orchestrated terrorist attack. But the facts contradict these claims. Ambassador Stevens worried for months about the never-ending security threats he faced in Benghazi. He knew he was on an al-Qaeda hit list. Intelligence sources believed the attacks were linked to al-Qaeda. Last week, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center testified on Capitol Hill that the strike was a terrorist attack planned for the anniversary of 9/11. Of course, we all knew that. New reports suggest they involved a former Guantanamo Bay detainee. The terrorist reportedly was released from Gitmo in 2007 and transferred to Libyan authorities under the condition he be kept in prison. Predictably, he was released in 2008. By Thursday, White House Press Secretary Jay Carney had finally acknowledged that it was self-evident now that the Benghazi attack constituted terrorism. Really? End of story? Not a chance. Later, on Thursday, President Obama contradicted his own press secretary, telling an audience at a town hall that it had to do with the online film trailer. Back to that old story. Early media accounts suggested that our ambassador died from smoke inhalation, but there were other reports indicating that he had been viciously attacked and murdered. Presumably an autopsy's been performed. Where are the results? Why don't we know them? We were told that the Navy SEALs who died courageously defending Stevens were part of his security detail. When the fighting started, they did what SEALs are trained to do. They fought back. But they were not part of Stevens' security team. It now appears as though Stevens was somehow separated from his small security detail when he traveled from the U.S. Embassy in Tripoli to the consulate in Benghazi. In fact, we now know there were no Marines stationed at diplomatic posts in Libya. When Jay Carney was asked repeatedly, who made that decision, he repeatedly dodged the question. We were told that the Libyan security detail hired to protect Stevens fought bravely to defend him. It was later reported that members of that Libyan team betrayed his location when he left the consulate and moved to a safe house. We were told that Libyans rushed to help Stevens, yet the only evidence of that is a video of Stevens being dragged while the crowd yells, Allahu Akbar, Allah is greatest. The Obama administration has sent FBI agents to investigate the crime scene as if this was a car theft. Presumably, they will interview Libyans who live in the area. CBS reports, however, that they've already done that. According to witnesses they spoke to, there was never an anti-American protest outside of the consulate. Instead, they say the consulate came under a planned military attack. A CBS reporter added, quote, this is in direct contradiction to the administration's account of the incident. Yeah, it sure is. For over a week, the media have been complicit in hiding the facts, likely hoping the story would just go away. There's been more interest in a 3-month-old tape of a Mitt Romney fundraiser than in a terrorist attack that killed our ambassador and 3 other brave Americans. The deaths of the 4 Americans in Libya were not the result of an obscure anti-Islamic internet film trailer. They are the result of Obama's policy of appeasement toward radical Islam and the governments that harbor them. But jihadists won't be appeased. In fact, they've been emboldened by the Obama administration's displays of weakness. The Islamists exploit anything they can find as an excuse for violence against the West. An offensive cartoon or a remark by the Pope taken out of context can lead to weeks of violent and deadly protests. But the real cause of violence against the West is a philosophy that teaches death to the infidel as a religious duty. One last note. Obama has spent the entire presidential campaign bragging about his decision to order the assassination of Osama bin Laden. I can't blame him. It's one of the only decisions he's gotten right. But if Obama is going to own the killing of bin Laden, he also needs to own the massacre in Benghazi. He needs to admit that his foreign policy of apology, accommodation, and appeasement has failed. Obama's foreign policy has been defined by arrogance, one that springs from his belief that by weakening our country, America, our enemies would soon learn to love us. But self-abasement has produced neither love nor respect from America's enemies. Under Obama, anti-Americanism hasn't diminished. The only thing that's been diminished is America itself.
Campaign for Working Families is responsible for the content of this advertising.